Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Martin. I'm the co-host of the Movable Book Society Zooms with Sean Sheehy. And in November, we had some technical difficulties with our recording. And so I'm going to recreate them for us today. And I'm going to start off right away with the Movable Medley exhibit, which was organized by Alicia Bailey. And she is a book artist and gallery owner in Denver and a maker of artist books herself. And she started the the Movable Medley exhibit, which was held at the Art Students League in conjunction with the Movable Book Society's conference in Denver. And this was a national juried exhibit featuring 29 works by 26 artists, and the jurors were selected by Teresa Burke, who's the head librarian at the ACA Library of Savannah College Art and Design in Atlanta, and Elliot McNally, archivist of the Coca-Cola Company Archives. And we're going to start off here with MJ Linford's book, Cocoon. And MJ is a book artist for over 50 years, and she can trace her interest in bookmaking back to her high school art classes. Her initial interest in movable and pop-up books began when she worked with Julie Chen, but she truly began to understand the mechanics and engineering of pop-up books in a workshop with Sean Sheehy. And since then, she's focused on using pop-up books with both humorous and more serious topics. Her work is housed in libraries and museums and private collections across the US. She has taught pop-up books to over 5,000 intermediate school art students. Cocoon began as a poem and was made into a pop-up book. The subject is about spousal abuse, and the poem and book were a means to deal with the abuse of a close family member. At first, as she made the pages, she was concerned that a pop-up book might be the wrong venue for the seriousness of the subject. However, as she continued to make pages, she realized that the innate innocence of children's pop-up books overlaid with the pain and drama of abuse was a juxtaposition that added a level of meaning that might not be revealed in a traditional artist book. All proceeds from this book are donated to a local women's shelter. The materials used are paper, colored pencil, ink, mylar, thread, and cloth. Now I'm going to show you the work of Susan Lowdermilk. Susan Lowdermilk is a book artist and printmaker. She creates handbound artist books involving movable parts and pop-ups and uses traditional printmaking processes. She is a professor at Lane Community College in Eugene, Oregon. She also teaches workshops in artist books, paper engineering, and printmaking. Her work has been collected by over 60 institutions worldwide and is represented in galleries throughout the United States. She earned her MFA from the University of Oregon in Eugene and her BFA from Colorado State University in Fort Collins. Power Play is structured as a workable 6-panel Jacob's Ladder toy. Images of rock, paper, scissors appear in each panel. As the book's boards move and clack against each other, the images appear to change position and move down the line. The book's concept stems from the idea that everyone believes they have power over someone else, but in fact, no one has any advantage. Therefore, the act of asserting aggression is futile. Materials are paper, bookboard, ribbon, and ink. The next book I'm going to show you is by Marianne Pettit. And Marianne Pettit is an artist and educator whose work explores fairy tales, anatomical obsessions, graphic and narrative medicine, as well as collective storytelling practices through mechanical books that combine animation and papercraft. This book, The Person You Don't Want to Be, is an anti-personality paper art kit. It contains 2 parts. The first is a limited edition hand-assembled box set of 21 waterfall cards, which is what you're seeing here. And the second is an open edition swatch book. The project began as a long list of personalities built over numerous workshop encounters. Participants selected a personality and recorded a short video of themselves performing the role. And then she drew 8 to 14 frames from their videos to make short hand-drawn animations. The limited edition box waterfall book contains 21 cards and is an edition of 20. The next book that I'm going to show you is by Thomas Parker Williams. He lives and works in Philadelphia in the United States. His work includes handmade artist book editions, unique bookworks, printmaking, and painting. Some of his artist books contain an audio element, music or sound work composed and performed by the artist. Tom's artist books are in Nubis private and public collections. This voyage contains an original watercolor and ink painting on a Tyvek scroll that is 5 inches high and 120 inches long. And although this painting appears to reference actual geographic locations and weather conditions that may exist or have once existed, the images do not exist in photographic form and are painted from memory. The painting is viewed through a window on the top panel of the container, and by turning the brass hand wheel, the journey begins. The materials are Tyvek, watercolor, ink, wood, and brass. And because of the knobs on top, the image can be both advanced and returned. So you can go both directions through. Next up is a book by Shaw Towers. He's an artist working in book arts, calligraphic arts, and music. His artist books appear in private university special collections across the US. His work has been featured in several international juried exhibits. He is the founder and curator of the Book Arts Collection at the Baylor University Libraries, where he also serves as art librarian and associate dean for research and engagement. Abecedarian Animalium is a bestiary of what the animals taught me, is a one-of-a-kind artist books incorporating dictionary definitions and illustrations of animals that sparked personal reflections on memories and experiences associated with each animal. Layered underneath each dictionary fragment is a journal-style reflection inspired by that animal, and a distillation of meaning derived from the experience. The work is a flag book structure with layered flags incorporating hand lettering and dictionary clippings. The materials used are papers, boards, ink, and recycled matter. The next book we're going to view is by Heather Doyle Meyer, which pairs innovative book structures with papers, fabrics, and text to produce a thought-provoking, layered examination of femininity, motherhood, and domesticity. Heather is a Colorado native and holds a BFA from Metropolitan State College of Denver in visual arts and a BA from Loretto Heights College, Regis College in theater education. Heather's award-winning work has been exhibited locally, regionally, and nationally, and can be found in university, museum, and private collections. In addition, Heather teaches bookmaking workshops in Colorado schools. Riptides explores mothers and daughters across 4 generations, telling layered stories of women as they embrace, reject these critical relationships. Moving from infancy and girlhood to leaving home, and from marriage and motherhood to her own daughter leaving home, each woman struggles in her own time, in her own way, with conflicting imperatives to both stay and leave. Utilizing the wave patterns, quilt pattern from a family quilt, the artist drew from the histories of her great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother, as well as herself, to create the visible and hidden text. The book combines both map fold and Turkish map fold structures so that both the quilt block of each woman's story and the whole quilt can be seen. This book comes with a paper wrapper and is made from fabric, thread, vellum, and paper. The next book I'm going to show you is my own, and it has its own sound, so I'm going to let the video talk. This artist book is a series of novels in which Oscar and 5 of the characters from his play have a dialogue of sorts, using lines from the play, and then Oscar's lines are all from other of his writing. Algernon. The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Oscar. The public have an insatiable curiosity to know everything except what is worth knowing. Miss Prism. The good end happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means. Oscar. Experience is the name everyone gives to their mistakes. Gwendolyn. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. And Oscar. To get into the best society nowadays, one has either to feed people, amuse people, or shock people. That is all. This next book that we're going to view is by Jan Dove, and it's called The Book of Bonbons. Jan Dove earned her MFA at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and her work has been shown internationally. Her artist books are in the Joan Flash Collection in Chicago, University of Washington Libraries, the Cynthia Sears Artist Book Collection, and Jan now serves on the board of directors of the Port Angeles Fine Arts Center. The Book of Bonbons came about as a result of the artist's fascination with geometric puzzles. It is a reminder of the need for play and curiosity, which are 2 well-tested paths to creativity. On each puzzle is written a quote from an artist about play, and the membrane pages in the center of the candy box are composites of her digital photographs, drawings, and traditional prints. The pages are constructed on the pattern of a visual puzzle. The text is about the permeability of human influences. Dove edited the video documentation of this book in collaboration with the students of the beginning video production class at the Berkeley City College. And the final book that we're going to share from the Movable Medley exhibit is by Jo Anderson, who spent her formative years living with her family in Colombia and Panama. She has since lived in Los Angeles, Albuquerque, and Tucson. Jo's art making includes printmaking installations, videos, and artist books. Impermanence is a byproduct of her COVID lockdown isolation, and she made an effort to use materials already in her studio and around the house. The window covering was no longer functional, and as it sat waiting to be thrown out, she realized it was a perfect accordion form. The drawing pad covers with their jagged holes on the left reminded her of film footage. She created a blind to view, not hunt, animals. In this sense, the blind spine of this book became a sequential display of desert animals photographed around her house and at the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum. For her, the effect became like a flip book or an early moving picture. She has learned to live with black widow spiders, rattlesnakes, javelina, coyotes, bobcats, toads, jackrabbits, and mule deer. She longs to see the more exotic desert animals. Many are no longer found in her Sonoran landscape. Human infill fencing, walls, and sport hunting combined with extreme temperatures remind her of the impermanence of all life. And now we're going to move on to the Emerging Paper Engineer Awards. And the Movable Book Society started awarding an Emerging Paper Engineer Award in 2014. And I'm going to start by showing you videos from the 2 honorable mentions. And the first video we're going to see is by Kasia Bornedal, who's from Sweden. And A Beginning is a silkscreen printed and hand-cut book. It's a collection of her contemplations on messages of and for our time through kinetic energy. It is an investigation of how the elements of pop-ups can be used to create engagement. Through the kinetic energy and spatiality, a unique reading experience is created that encourages an active and curious mindset. The spreads become poetic invitations for exploration of the seen and unseen and contemplation of the importance of action and perspective. The second honorable mention is by Kyla Corbett. It's called The Elegy for the Mackenzie and was handcrafted in a project in Susan Lowdermilk's artist book independent study class at Lane Community College in spring of 2021. The loss of the forests and communities on the Mackenzie River that resulted from the 2020 Holiday Farm wildfire were heartbreaking for those who grew up in that area. She felt compelled to create a tribute while reminding us that life doesn't end with the fire, it starts anew. This idea of a life cycle in wildfire was best communicated with a carousel book structure. After creating the illustrations and design, she photographed the artwork and transitioned them to a digital format within Adobe Illustrator, where she edited it into a layout for templates to send to the LCC printing department to be printed. She wrote and printed the poem with a Kandara font at 11 point and attached to the pages like the other illustrations. She had raised from the body of the page so as to create balance in the page thicknesses. The Asahi bookcloth has an iridescent glow of green and copper, speaking to the nature of a transitional connection between forest and fire. One of her illustrated backgrounds was used as the accordion spine of the book. The front cover is an inset of one of her illustrations, and the title in the colophon is inset into the back cover. Sari silk was used for the ribbon. And now I'm very pleased to introduce the newest Emerging Paper Engineer Award winner for his book, Nuestras Casitas Carousel, Our Little Snail Houses. Tito Perea Gonzalez is a professional graphic designer and currently a student of a master's degree in innovation at Fundación Universitaria de Área Andina in Bogota, Colombia. Tito has been an enthusiast of pop-up books since he was a child and has channeled his academic training into the design of pedagogical editorial products, which usually address topics of social responsibility. Nuestras Casitas Carousel is a pop-up book that narrates the children's memory during the Colombian armed conflict. This book was born when the author and illustrator decided to tell the story of his childhood in the middle of the armed conflict, and in this way contribute to the construction of peace from memory. With the peace agreement with the FARC guerrillas, Colombia finds itself in a setting where the building of a collective memory is essential to achieve lasting peace. Thus, this book is a tool that aims to teach future generations about the disasters of war and to promote the non-repetition of the violent acts of the past. And this is a quote from Tito. When I was 5 years old, my sister Paulita and I built stories and magical worlds in order to understand the war that we had lived through. For us, the sounds had other meanings. The bullets from the guns were popcorn, the warplanes were drones, the sounds of the fragments on the ceiling were cats with sharp nails, and much more. Today, even with the scars from war, it is my responsibility to give a literary voice to those who have not been listened to those most affected by the war, children. The final video that we're going to view today is from Paul Johnson, who was the winner of this year of the 2021 Megan Dorfer Prize for Artist Books. And the jurors were Elise Bailey and Colette Fu. And Paul Johnson is a book artist and teacher in the United Kingdom. He's best known as a pop-up and movable book artist and for his work as a teacher of book arts and children's literacy. Johnson was founder of the Book Art Project, an initiative that teaches writing to children through bookmaking and has made books with over 200,000 children and over 25,000 teachers worldwide. This is his description of the book. In the mid-'80s, Johnson was a visiting professor in San Francisco, and before returning home to England, he house sat for distinguished poet and Berkeley professor Leonard Nathan. The poet and his wife lived in a beautiful house in the Berkeley Hills, and Johnson's task was to feed the cat and water the plants while they were away in Europe. While he was there, Johnson made a journal, verbal reflections, and drawings of the lovely Japanese-inspired garden. The cover of the lemon tree is of the garden gate. A lemon tree was its focal point, hence the title, and drawings made then are the foundation for each of the 4 pop-up spreads. The text is a compilation of his writing at that time. Johnson is not sure who the woman is, certainly no one he knew then or since, but she crept in without Johnson knowing it. Perhaps she is the mythological Flora, the goddess of plants. Recently, Johnson Street viewed that house in Berkeley. The house was unchanged, but where was the garden? Most of it had been sold off for housing. So his pop-up book is a remembrance of times past, and like Proust, he is revisiting a long ago time and experience. In this instance, a wonderful little piece of paradise that once upon a time was in Berkeley, California. And so that's the conclusion of the recreation of the November Zoom. And I thank you all for joining me for this. And we'll be having our next Zoom in February. And I hope you join us then. Thank you.